I stood there in my cramped living room, my stomach twisting into knots as my friend looked me straight in the eyes and whispered, "I guess I'll just be homeless then." My heart was slamming against my ribs like it was trying to break out, the words hanging in the air thicker than the scent of her vanilla perfume that had somehow taken over every corner of my space. How did I go from being the guy who opened his door without a second thought to help her through the worst breakup of her life, to suddenly being cast as the cold-hearted villain in everyone's story? And with our mutual friends already blowing up my phone, texting me that I was being too harsh, I started questioning everything. Was I really the arsehole for just wanting my own space back? Or had I let this situation spiral so far that there was no way out without destroying friendships I'd had for years? It all started about 2 weeks earlier, on a rainy Tuesday night when my phone lit up with her name, Lily. We've been friends since university, the kind of ride-or-die duo who'd pulled all-nighters studying together, celebrated every promotion with cheap takeaway, and vented about bad dates over late-night drives. She was 25, sharp as a tack, always the one cracking jokes to lighten the mood. But that night, her voice cracked over the line like glass under pressure. "Hey, I know it's late, but Jake and it's over. For good this time. He kicked me out, and I've got nowhere to go. Can I crash at your place for a couple nights? Just until I figure something out?" I was sitting at my desk in the tiny one-bedroom flat I called home, the glow of my laptop screen the only light in the room. My place isn't much, maybe 55 square meters total, but it's mine. The living room doubles as my office, with a worn leather sofa I'd picked up at a charity shop, a big window overlooking the city lights of the city center, and just enough counter space in the kitchen for my coffee maker and a single frying pan. I work from home as a graphic designer, so this flat isn't just walls and floors to me. It's my sanctuary. Quiet mornings with the hum of the aircon, afternoons where I could blast my playlists without bothering anyone, evenings where I'd unwind with a beer and zero expectations. No roommates, no drama, just me and the peace I'd fought hard to build after years of sharing noisy dorms and chaotic group houses. But Lily sounded broken. I could hear the tears she was holding back, the way her breath hitched like she was one word away from falling apart. My chest tightened with that familiar pull of guilt and loyalty. She'd been there for me when my last relationship tanked 2 years ago, brought over ice cream, and sat on my floor until 4 a.m. listening to me rant. How could I say no? "Of course," I said, forcing a light tone even though my mind was already whispering warnings. "A couple nights, no big deal. Get here whenever." She showed up an hour later, soaked from the rain, dragging a single duffel bag that looked like it held everything she owned in that moment. Her eyes were puffy, mascara streaked down her cheeks, but she threw her arms around me in the doorway like I was her lifeline. "You're a lifesaver," she murmured into my shoulder, her voice muffled and grateful. The hug lingered a second too long, her wet hair dripping onto my t-shirt, and for a moment, it felt good. Like I was doing the right thing, being the solid friend she needed. We ordered pizza, cracked open a couple of beers from my fridge, and she spilled everything. Jake had been cheating, gaslighting her for months, and the final fight had been explosive. Yelling, thrown keys, the works. I listened, nodding, offering the kind of generic advice you give when you don't know what else to say. "You deserve better. This is temporary. We'll get you back on your feet." The first few days were fine. Better than fine, honestly. Mornings, she'd make coffee while I logged into my first Zoom meeting, chatting softly about job listings she'd found online. She'd crash on the sofa with her laptop, scrolling through flats in between crying jags that I'd try to soothe with awkward back pats. At night, we'd watch old movies on my TV, her feet tucked under a blanket I'd loaned her, laughing at the same stupid scenes we'd quoted since second year. The flat felt a little less empty, a little warmer. I told myself it was no big deal. Her stuff was minimal, just the duffel and a toiletry bag in my bathroom. She was respectful, tiptoeing around when I was on calls, even offering to run to the shop for groceries one afternoon. "I owe you big time," she'd say, flashing that familiar grin that always made me feel like a hero. But by day 5, something shifted. It started small, almost imperceptible. She came back from a quick errand with a couple extra bags. Clothes she'd picked up from her old place, she said. "Just some basics so I don't have to keep wearing the same 3 outfits." I watched her unpack them onto the sofa, folding shirts neatly beside my gaming controller, and a tiny flicker of unease stirred in my gut. Okay, I thought, it's temporary. But then came the makeup bag exploding across my bathroom counter, brushes and palettes scattered like colorful landmines. A small lamp she borrowed from her mom's storage unit showed up in the corner of the living room, casting a soft pink glow that clashed with my neutral tones. Little things, but they piled up. The air smelled different. Her floral shampoo in the shower steam, her takeaway containers lingering in the fridge next to my meal prep. And the nights. God, the nights started messing with me. Lily's new job at a city center bar meant she didn't get off until the wee hours, 2 a.m., sometimes 3. I'd be dead asleep in my bedroom, the thin walls doing nothing to muffle the sound of her key scraping in the lock, the door creaking open, her footsteps padding across the hardwood. Every time I'd jolt awake, heart racing like I was hearing a burglar, my mind foggy with that half-dream panic. Before I remembered, it was just her. The sofa springs would groan as she settled in, and I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, counting the minutes until my alarm. I work from home, yeah, but that doesn't mean I don't need sleep. My brain fogged up during client calls. I'd zone out mid-design, eyes burning from the late nights. Mornings used to be my reset. Quiet coffee, a quick run before diving into work. Now I'd wake up to her still snoring softly on the sofa, the living room a maze of her scattered chargers and half-empty water bottles. I felt it building inside me, this slow burn of resentment I hated myself for. I'd catch myself thinking, this was supposed to be a couple nights. When does figure things out end? But then I'd see her face, pale, exhausted from the breakup, scrolling through flat listings with that defeated slump in her shoulders, and the guilt would crash over me like a wave. She's hurting. Don't be that guy. You can handle a little longer. So I didn't say anything at first. I'd just retreat to my room earlier, earbuds in, trying to carve out some illusion of alone time. My mood tanked, though. I snapped at a coworker over Slack for something minor, paced the kitchen at 1 a.m., wondering if I was losing my mind over a temporary guest. The flat that once felt like a cozy cocoon now pressed in on me, walls closer, air heavier. I missed the silence. I missed me. By day 10, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The clutter had spread, her shoes by the door, a stack of her books on my coffee table, even a throw pillow she'd brought that smelled like her old place. Late that afternoon, after another restless night, I rehearsed the conversation in my head 100 times while she was out. "Hey, Lily, this has been great, but I need my place back soon. I can't do long term." Simple, direct, fair. My hands were clammy when she finally walked in around 6 p.m., kicking off her boots with a tired sigh. The words tumbled out before I could chicken out, my voice steadier than I felt. "Listen, I can't really do this long term. I need my place back soon, like in the next few days. I've got work piling up and the space, it's just not set up for 2 people." She froze mid-step, her expression shifting from casual to something sharper, more surprised. The room went still, the hum of the fridge the only sound. "Wait," she said slowly, tilting her head like she hadn't heard me right. "I thought I was staying here until I figure things out. Like, properly?" My stomach dropped. I blinked, replaying my original offer in my head. The couple nights, the temporary. "No? I said a few days, not moving in." The words felt heavier coming out, like they were laced with betrayal even though I knew they weren't. She crossed her arms, eyes narrowing just a fraction, but I saw the hurt flash there. I already told people I live here now. Our friends know. I thought this was us helping each other out. That's when the texts started rolling in later that evening. One from our mate Mike. Mate, heard about Lily. Kinda harsh, man. She's going through it. Cut her some slack. Another from Sarah. She's crashing with you, right? Good on you for stepping up. My phone buzzed like an accusation, each notification twisting the knife. Lily had barely spoken to me since the talk. Just quiet comments under her breath as she moved around the flat. Guess I'll start looking for a sofa to surf on, or I'll be out of your hair soon, don't worry. Each one landed like a punch, making my chest ache with that familiar mix of anger and shame. I'd lie awake those nights, staring at the ceiling again, wondering how a favor had turned into this minefield. Was I really the bad guy here? Or was I just protecting the one thing that kept me sane? The days that followed that conversation blurred into this heavy, suffocating fog that settled over my flat like the gray rain that wouldn't stop falling outside. Lily's words kept echoing in my head. I thought I was staying here until I figure things out. And every time I replayed them, my throat tightened with this mix of frustration and that deep, gnawing guilt. I'd pace the narrow strip of floor between my desk and the sofa at night, my socks whispering against the hardwood, wondering how the hell a simple favor had morphed into this silent war zone. The air felt thicker now, laced with the faint scent of her lavender laundry detergent that she'd started using in my washer without asking. Her presence wasn't just physical anymore. It was everywhere. In the way the sofa cushions stayed indented from her sleeping there, in the extra toothbrush standing guard next to mine in the bathroom like some permanent fixture. I'd catch myself staring at it while brushing my teeth, heart sinking, thinking, this wasn't the plan. This was never the plan. She barely spoke to me directly after that. Instead, it was these little jabs, delivered in passing like they were nothing, but each one landed square in my chest. Mornings when I'd emerge from my room, bleary-eyed from another interrupted sleep, she'd be folding laundry on the coffee table. More clothes she'd apparently gone back and retrieved from storage, and mutter under her breath, guess I'll just figure out how to be homeless then. No big deal. Her voice was soft, almost casual, but the way her shoulders slumped, the way she avoided my eyes, it was calculated. Or at least, it felt that way. I'd open my mouth to respond, to defend myself, but the words would die there because, damn it, part of me did feel like shit. She was my friend. She'd been through hell with Jake. The kind of breakup that leaves you questioning your whole worth. And here I was, drawing a line in the sand when she needed solid ground. But the other part of me, the part that was starting to unravel, screamed that this wasn't fair. I hadn't signed up for a roommate. I hadn't agreed to this slow takeover. My work suffered the most. I'm a graphic designer for a mid-sized marketing firm, and deadlines don't care about your personal drama. I'd sit at my desk, headphones on to drown out the world, but my focus was shot. Every creak of the floorboards as she moved around the kitchen, every late-night key in the lock jolting me awake at 2:47 a.m., it chipped away at me. One afternoon, during a client video call, she came in from a shift, exhausted and clattering dishes in the sink, right as I was presenting mock-ups. I saw the client's face twitch on screen, and I had to mute myself mid-sentence, my cheeks burning as I whispered sharply, "Hey, can you keep it down just for a sec?" She paused, gave me this long, unreadable look, and then shrugged like it was no big deal. But later, when the call ended, she said quietly from the sofa, "Sorry I'm such a burden. I'll try to be invisible." The sarcasm dripped like acid, and I felt my stomach twist. Invisible? She was anything but. Her energy filled the room, her late nights disrupting the rhythm I'd built my whole life around. I'd lie in bed those nights, the city lights filtering through the blinds, and my mind would race. Am I being selfish? Or am I just protecting the one thing that keeps me from losing my damn mind? Then the friends got involved for real. It wasn't just texts anymore. Mike called me the next evening while I was trying to cook dinner, stirring pasta in my tiny kitchen, the steam fogging up the window. "Mate," he said, voice all casual but with that undercurrent of judgment, "what's going on with Lily? She told us you're kicking her out after she already moved her stuff in. That's kind of rough, man. She's got no family close by, and after what Jake pulled..." I gripped the wooden spoon tighter, the sauce bubbling angrily on the stove, and tried to explain. "It was supposed to be a few days, Mike, not indefinite. My place isn't built for two people. I work here, I live here, I breathe here." He sighed, long and heavy, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Just help her out a little longer. She's family, right?" Family. The word hung there, and I wanted to laugh or scream or both. Sarah texted right after, echoing the same vibe. A group chat screenshot where Lily had apparently posted, "Thanks for the sofa surfing support, guys. Means the world while I get back on my feet." No mention of me setting boundaries. No context. Just me looking like the heartless flatmate who'd flipped the script. Lily overheard the call, I think. Or maybe she just sensed the shift in the air. Because that night, after she got home at 3:15 a.m., the door clicking shut with extra force, she didn't even try to be quiet. I heard her rummaging in the fridge, the clink of a beer bottle she must have grabbed from my six-pack, and then her voice floating through the thin wall. "Don't worry, I won't be here much longer. Wouldn't want to cramp your precious alone time." It wasn't loud enough to be a fight, but it was pointed, laced with that hurt that made my eyes sting in the dark. I pulled the pillow over my head, pulse hammering, and for the first time in our friendship, I felt this cold distance creeping in. Who was this version of Lily? The one who'd assumed my yes meant forever? Who'd broadcasted our arrangement to the world without looping me back in? And who was I becoming? The guy biting his tongue, second-guessing every boundary because guilt was winning? The tipping point came a couple days later, on a Friday, when the flat felt smaller than ever. I'd finally mustered the courage for a real talk after another sleepless night. My back ached from the tension I carried around like invisible weights. My mind foggy from another day of half-arsed designs. She was on the sofa when I got out of my last meeting, legs tucked under her, scrolling her phone with that defeated hunch in her posture. The pink lamp she'd brought glowed softly, casting long shadows across the walls that used to be just mine. I sat on the edge of the coffee table, close enough to smell her shampoo, and kept my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. "Lily, we need to figure this out. I care about you. I really do. You know that. But it's not working for me. The late nights, the space, my work. I need you to start looking for your own place. Like, seriously. I can help with first month's rent or whatever, but I can't keep going like this." Her eyes met mine, wide and glassy, and for a second, I saw the old Lily, the one who'd stayed up with me through my own heartbreaks. But then her face hardened, just a flicker, and she looked away toward the window where rain streaked the glass. "I already told everyone I'm settled here," she said, voice cracking slightly. "They think I'm good. If I leave now, I look like a failure. And yeah, maybe I'll end up crashing on someone else's sofa. Or worse. But fine, if that's what you want." The homeless card again. Played softer this time, but it hit harder because of the tears welling up. My chest constricted, breath catching like I'd been punched. I wanted to hug her, to fix it. But I also wanted to scream that this wasn't my fault. I hadn't lied. I hadn't assumed. The silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable, broken only by the distant hum of traffic outside. In that moment, I felt utterly alone in my own home, trapped between loyalty and the desperate need to reclaim the life I'd built. The weekend dragged on like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from, every hour stretching longer in that tiny flat where the walls seemed to close in tighter with each passing minute. Saturday morning, I woke up to the sound of Lily in the kitchen, clattering pans louder than necessary, probably on purpose, making eggs that filled the air with that greasy, comforting smell I used to love, but now just twisted my stomach. I shuffled out in my joggers, rubbing sleep from my eyes, and tried to act normal. "Morning," I mumbled, reaching for the coffee pot. She didn't even glance up, just kept stirring, her back rigid. Yeah, morning. Hope I didn't wake you again last night. Wouldn't want to mess with your precious routine. The sarcasm was light, but it sliced right through me, leaving this raw ache in my chest. I stood there, mug in hand, the steam rising hot against my face, and felt the bile of frustration rising too. Why is she making this so hard? I was the one who said yes when no one else would. Now I'm the monster? I spent the day buried in work at my desk, headphones cranked up to block out the world, but my mind kept drifting back to her. Every few minutes, I'd catch a glimpse of her on the sofa, legs curled up, phone glowing in her lap, scrolling through who knows what with that faraway look that screamed heartbreak. Part of me wanted to sit down, to pull her into one of those old late-night talks we used to have, the kind where we'd laugh until our sides hurt and pretend the world wasn't falling apart. But the bigger part, the exhausted, space-starved part, just wanted her gone. My alone time was sacred now, a lifeline I hadn't realized I needed until it was ripped away. I'd built this life brick by brick after university. The quiet mornings where I could sketch ideas without interruption, the evenings where I'd cook for one and not feel guilty about the mess. Now it was all shared, diluted, invaded. By evening, when she left for her bar shift, I exhaled for the first time all day, sinking into the sofa that still held the faint imprint of her body. The silence was bliss, but it was tainted, knowing she'd be back at 3 a.m. to shatter it again. Sunday was worse. Mike and Sarah pulled a group video call out of nowhere, their faces popping up on my laptop screen while I was halfway through a deadline. Lily was out running errands, thank God, but I could feel her shadow in the room anyway. Look, mate, Mike started, his tone all buddy-like but edged with that judgmental edge. We talked to Lily. She's really struggling. She told us you're giving her the boot after she already let everyone know she's crashing there. That's gotta sting for her, right? After Jake? Sarah jumped in, nodding vigorously, her voice soft but firm. You're a good guy, we know that, but she's got no backup plan. Maybe just give it another week or two? Help her line up something solid. I stared at the screen, my pulse kicking up, the flat suddenly feeling even smaller with their voices filling it. Guys, it wasn't supposed to be permanent, I said, my voice cracking a little despite my best efforts. I said a few days. You brought furniture for Christ's sake. I work here. I live here. I can't breathe. They exchanged a look, the kind that said, he's being dramatic, and Mike sighed. Just don't be the guy who leaves her high and dry, okay? The call ended with half-hearted, we love you, bros, but it left me reeling, phone clutched in my hand like evidence in a trial I was losing. When Lily got back that afternoon, bags rustling with what looked like more clothes, seriously, how much stuff did she have stashed? The tension crackled like static. She dropped them by the door with a thud that echoed too loud, then flopped onto the sofa without a word. I couldn't take it anymore. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. As I turned from my desk, the words spilling out before I could rehearse them. Lily, I need you out by the end of this week, Thursday at the latest. I'll drive you wherever, help with deposits, whatever you need, but this has to stop. I'm not kicking you to the street, I'm done. The room went dead quiet. She looked up slowly, eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying in secret, and that familiar guilt slammed into me again, heavy as lead. But underneath it, there was this fierce, protective anger for my own sanity. Her lip trembled and she whispered, So that's it? After everything? I guess I'll start packing my furniture then. Wouldn't want to overstay my welcome. The air between us felt electric, charged with all the unsaid things, our years of friendship cracking under the weight of assumptions and unspoken boundaries. The next few days were a slow-motion nightmare. She moved like a ghost, packing in fits and starts, the duffel bag growing fatter by the hour. Late nights got louder, deliberate almost, doors shutting with extra force, music playing softly from her phone until dawn. I'd lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling cracks I'd memorized over the years, my mind a whirlwind of doubt. Am I really the arsehole here? She's hurting, and I'm choosing my sofa over her? But then another 3 a.m. wake-up would hit, my body jolting like it was wired to a live current, and the resentment would flare hot again. Work became a joke. I missed a deadline for the first time in 2 years, apologizing profusely in an email while my hands shook on the keyboard. The flat smelled like her everywhere now, vanilla and stress, and I found myself fantasizing about the day it would just be mine again, clean and quiet and mine. Thursday morning finally arrived, gray and heavy with the kind of rain that mirrored the storm inside me. Lily had most of her stuff boxed up by then, the pink lamp gone, the sofa looking strangely empty without her blanket. She stood in the doorway with the last bag slung over her shoulder, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "I guess this is it," she said, voice flat but with that undercurrent of hurt that still got to me. "Thanks for the hospitality." I wanted to say something profound, to salvage the friendship that suddenly felt frayed at the edges, but all that came out was a quiet, "I'm sorry it went down like this. Call me if you need anything, really." She nodded once, eyes avoiding mine, and stepped out into the hallway. The door clicked shut behind her, and for the first time in 2 weeks, the flat was silent. Truly silent. I sank onto the sofa, the leather cool against my back, and let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. My chest felt lighter, but there was this hollow ache, too, like I'd lost something important in the process. I spent the rest of the day reclaiming my space, moving the furniture back, wiping down counters that still carried traces of her, breathing in the faint return of my own scent. But the guilt lingered, whispering in the quiet moments. Our mutual friends went quiet on the group chat after that. A few vague, "hope you're good" texts, but I knew the narrative had shifted. Lily was the victim. I was the guy who drew the line. Was I? Or had I just stood up for the one thing that kept me grounded in this chaotic world? The door clicked shut behind her, and just like that, the flat exhaled. It was Thursday afternoon, rain still pattering against the window like it had been keeping score of every tense moment between us. I stood there in the middle of the living room for a full minute, not moving, just letting the silence wash over me like a cool wave after weeks in a storm. My shoulders dropped for the first time in 14 days. The sofa looked naked without her blanket, the countertops bare again, no stray makeup brushes or half-empty coffee mugs claiming territory. I walked over to the window, pressed my forehead against the cool glass, and watched her figure disappear down the street, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, the little pink lamp tucked under her arm like a defeated flag. Part of me wanted to run after her, to yell that I was sorry, that I never meant for it to feel like abandonment. But the bigger part, the exhausted, boundary-starved part, stayed rooted, heart still hammering, but lighter now, like someone had finally lifted the invisible weight that had been crushing my ribs. I spent the next few hours reclaiming every inch of my space, the way a soldier might sweep a battlefield after the fight. I moved the coffee table back to its exact spot, vacuumed up the faint vanilla crumbs she'd left behind, and even rearranged the throw pillows so they didn't remember the shape of her body. The pink glow was gone. My neutral tones returned, soft and familiar. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, my coffee, black and strong, and sat at my desk with the window cracked open, letting the city sounds filter in without the constant undercurrent of her late-night footsteps. For the first time in weeks, I felt my lungs expand fully. Work emails that had piled up like accusations suddenly felt manageable. I knocked out 3 designs in a row, fingers flying across the keyboard, that old creative spark flickering back to life. But every time I paused, the guilt crept in like fog rolling off the river. She's out there right now, probably crashing on some acquaintance's floor, replaying my words in her head like a bad movie. I pictured her face in the doorway, small, defeated, eyes avoiding mine, and my stomach knotted so tight I had to stand up and pace. Was I the arsehole? The guy who'd opened his door with a smile and closed it with a slam? She'd trusted me, assumed my yes meant something bigger because that's what friends do, right? Or at least that's what she'd told everyone. That night, the silence was almost too loud. I ordered my usual Thai takeaway for one, the kind I used to crave in peace, but it tasted flat on my tongue. Around 2 a.m., the witching hour when her key used to scrape the lock, I jolted awake anyway, heart racing on autopilot, expecting the creak of the sofa. Nothing. Just the hum of the fridge and the distant wail of a siren. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, replaying the whole 2 weeks like a film on loop. The rainy night, she showed up soaked and broken. The early days of easy laughter and shared pizza. Then the slow invasion, the clothes, the lamp, the late nights that chipped away at my sanity until I felt like a stranger in my own home. I thought about the texts from Mike and Sarah, the way they'd painted me as the harsh one, without hearing my side. She already told everyone she lives here now. The assumption had spread like wildfire, turning my favor into her new reality, and me into the villain who pulled the rug out. My chest tightened with that familiar ache, the one that whispered I should have been more patient, more compassionate. She was hurting from Jake's betrayal. Maybe I just added to the pile. But then I remembered the fog in my brain during client calls, the resentment bubbling every time I couldn't find a quiet moment to breathe, the way my own needs had shrunk smaller and smaller until they vanished. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival. I'd learned that the hard way, lying awake night after night, feeling my peace slip away one interrupted sleep at a time. The next morning brought the real aftermath. My phone buzzed while I was mid-coffee, a text from Lily that hit like a sucker punch. Made it to Sarah's sofa for now. Thanks for the few days. Hope your space feels worth it. No emoji, no sarcasm this time. Just raw hurt wrapped in politeness. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred, my thumbs hovering, wanting to type a novel of explanation, apology, defense. Instead, I sent back a simple, "I'm glad you're safe. Doors always open if you need to talk." It felt hollow, but true. Then Mike called, voice clipped. "She's pretty torn up, mate. We all thought you two had it figured out. You gonna be the guy who leaves her hanging?" I explained again, voice steady but cracking at the edges, laying out every detail I'd held back before. The late nights, the clutter, the way my work and mood had tanked. He listened this time, quieter, and finally sighed. Didn't realize it was that bad. Still, she's our friend. Sarah texted later, softer. "She cried on my sofa last night, but I get it. Your place, your rules." The mixed messages swirled in my head all day, pulling me between guilt and relief. I wasn't heartless. I'd offered help with rent, rides, anything. But I also wasn't a doormat. Friendship doesn't mean surrendering your sanity. By Sunday, the flat felt like home again, truly mine. I blasted my old playlists while cooking, took a long run through the park without rushing back, and even sketched ideas late into the night with no fear of waking someone. The guilt didn't vanish. It sat there like a quiet flatmate now, a reminder that sometimes doing the right thing for yourself hurts the people you care about. Lily and I haven't talked much since, but the friendship isn't dead, just bruised, healing in its own time. I still wonder if I could have handled the conversation differently, said yes to a week instead of days, drawn the line gentler. But looking back, I know I did what I had to. My space isn't just square meters. It's my mental health, my focus, the foundation I built when everything else felt shaky. And in the end, protecting that didn't make me the bad guy. It made me honest. I'm still trying to process all of this. The way one small favor snowballed into something that tested every boundary I thought I had. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear more of my journey, make sure to subscribe.